So, who's going to catch Toyota? The Mercedes number 5, this is the Nick Heidfeld, Peter Dumbrick, Christoph Bueschu car. Maybe they can put in a quick lap. GT2 cars are much slower. Now then, this is the JJ Lehto, Tom Christensen, a former winner of course, and Jörg Müller. They've got to try and catch Toyota as dusk begins to come towards the famous circuit of La Sarthe, trying to keep the GT2 cars, the GTS cars that should be, out of the way, and they're on it now. The Japanese crewed Toyota, that's the third Toyota, number 3. And they've been quick as well, not quite as quick as Brundle or the Boots and McNish car, but they've been quick also. Done a lot of the development work on this car. They've done 5 24-hour tests. They know this car can last. And the Pénaus. David Brabham is sharing with Butz Leitzinger from the United States and Eric Bernard from France. They pushed very hard. They really surprised everybody in pre-qualifying. It's an unlikely looking car. Great big front engine, Ford powered car with the engines built by the NASCAR team. Michele Alboreto there in the pits. Private BMWs. And Alboreto now out in the Spider Audi. He pushed on for a best of 3:37.140 in the Wednesday session. The Nissan number 21 of Kottas, Ekblom and Goossens did a best of 3:40.393. The number 9 Audi Coupe still had its troubles. Christian Abt waiting there to take over. The sister car was also troubled. That's the all-British crew of Perry McCarthy, James Weaver and Andy Wallace. Andy, of course, a winner before in the Jaguar days. And so, we've got to remember that both days of qualifying are divided into 2 sessions, late afternoon and dark. Each driver's got to do laps in the dark in order to prove that they're going to be competitive. And of course, a number of the younger drivers have not raced a car in the dark before. The JB GSS-sponsored Ferrari 333 SP there. Mechanics working on the Pénaus. It's also possible, come night, temperatures begin to fall, you can use a different set of tires. Everyone looking to optimize performance. Seems hard to believe to the average road driver that you really can circulate Le Mans quicker at night with just your headlights than you can in full daylight. But with a different temperature, lower oil temperatures, the tires not over pressurizing in the heat, it's possible to have a look. That's the Dutch crewed Lola with a big American Ford V8 in it. This race always so important to the Japanese. Not since Mazda won in '91 has there been the sort of Japanese victory that perhaps the budgets, the determination of the drivers and the major manufacturers would have warranted. Mercedes happy with their performance so far and having to acknowledge that maybe the Toyotas are just plain quicker. Wonderful raughty noise from that big Mercedes exhaust. The S's by night, always an evocative sign as the cars blast through the trees. Numbers lit up for identification and away out onto the famous Mulsanne Straight. 200 plus miles an hour in the dark with 2 chicanes to catch you out. Braking points harder to find. But it's not just the big cars at the front of the field. Porsche, not represented in what we used to call GT1 this year, have put a lot of effort into the new 996, the pretty shaped new road car for the all-new GT3 class. They've got to try and get some of those cars into the race. Viper 53 there is the Donahue, Belloc and Soil Ayari car, two French Formula 3000 drivers with a well-known American sports car driver. And so, Toyota out again. Brundle, of course, sharing with Emmanuel Collard and Vincenzo Sospiri. Those two have been winning everything this year in the Open Top World Sports Car Series. And Toyota very confidently parking the cars nose on. It has to be that they're quite pleased with their performance to date. Mark Webber's driven very well, the young Australian. He's done a 3 minutes 35.301. Pedro Lamy there with Bernd Schneider must be wondering how they're going to catch the Toyotas. And so midnight draws near as we get to the end of Wednesday's qualifying. And so at the end of that first qualifying, it was the Toyotas first and second, followed by Brabham with a great performance in the front engine Paynos, then JJ Lehto and co in the BMW, the other two Mercedes, the Japanese crewed Toyota, and then the rest of the field with the second BMW, and a good performance there from Michele Alboreto, 10th in the Audi. And the fastest Viper, 3 minutes 56. That's a very quick time for the GTS class, and the Porsche GT3 just there. Which brings us on to Thursday, the final day of qualifying. Jackie X there, 5 times winner, under a warm sky, excellent track conditions. Can anyone unseat Toyota? Well, they probably won't do it in this first session, perhaps later when temperatures are a little cooler. Here's one who will be having difficulty getting up there onto the Toyota pace. Both the Audis, impressive, not quick enough yet. And this is the approach to the famous slightly banked corner called Indianapolis. It's very tricky, that approach. You have to swing right over to the right-hand side of the track, turn into the banking, and head down to the corner at Arnage. Big crowds already here for qualifying. Now the US design Riley and Scott is finding the pace just too hot. This is a number 32 car, all prepared by Philippe Gache, Solution F company. Schneider's Mercedes, still with that very distinctive Mercedes bouncing nose pattern. It's quite bumpy as they come there into Arnage and accelerate away. Always just a little jiggle from the front there. That's been around since Mercedes first brought these fabulous sports cars back to racing in the 97 GT Championship. Fully committed as ever. This is the BMW number 15, Winkelhock, Martini and Dalmas, running through the Ford chicanes, past his crew and up and under the Dunlop Bridge, one of the most famous sights of Le Mans. Down through the S's. Nissan now have got to pick themselves up after the drama of Van der Poel's accident yesterday. This is the sister car. Nissan have got to put their troubles behind them and prepare for a competitive race. A rapt crowd as ever at Le Mans. The Lehto Tom Christensen car has just done a 3 minutes 31.209. That's very quick, but it's still just third overall. The two Toyotas still out in front. But JJ ever won for the committed and dedicated lap. Very impressive indeed from BMW. That car last year looked quite different, had a lot of trouble. There's been a lot of development over the winter. And there they are in team formation. JJ, of course, bouncing back from a rather difficult season he spent in '98 over in IndyCar racing. And here then is Bernd Schneider out in Mercedes number 6. He'll be sharing with Frank Lagos and Pedro Lamy, the Portuguese, and they've got to try and go for German honor at least as quickly as the Lehto BMW, even if they're accepting that the Toyotas have got them on outright pace for the moment. But he's ended up fourth overall on 3 minutes 31.541. He's going to have to be satisfied with that. So the honor for top German in the absence of Porsche from the top class this year goes to BMW.